Save our Swanley. Sevenoaks residents gather with Laura Trott MP to protest development on favoured field.
That having a building site behind us for up to 20 years would cause devastation to so many lives.
Back to 2020. New COVID inquiry report throws up questions on pandemic handling.
It was tough, these were new experiences, but at the same time it just points to the sorts of leadership that you need in these situations.
And rocking around the Christmas tree. As Maidstone's lights turn on, we ask shoppers in the county about stepping into the festive season. Hello and welcome to KMTV. I'm Kristen Hawthorne and this is Friday the 21st of November. Of course you heard our headlines, so our top story tonight is there are plans to build 17,000 homes in Kent's leafiest district and they've been met with vocal opposition in Swanley. Residents have gathered in Archerway playing field to demonstrate against Sevenoaks Council's proposals, which the authority have said are essential to meeting the government's housing targets. But what impact could the development have in Swanley? Megan Shaw has been finding out.
A cold afternoon in Swanley, yet campaigners were hot under the collar to protest against proposals developing more than 1,000 houses on former Greenbelt land. Swathes of farmland and grassland under the government's new planning policy framework can now be classed as Greybelt land in an attempt to boost housing delivery. But Swanley residents, who see this green space as vital for their community, are fighting back.
I'm so lucky to see the sunrises from my bedroom window almost every morning, having to get up early with my child. To lose this field would mean to lose part of us, part of our family, part of identity. My dog recently passed away and we would take her for walks over there every day. So we call it Honey's Field. And not only that, but having a building site behind us for up to 20 years would cause devastation to so many lives and to the community.
If you couldn't already see behind me, they're actually harvesting. So this land is arable land and things like coriander and spring onions are grown here and they're distributed to supermarkets up and down the UK. Losing this land, of course, would mean losing these crops.
The campaign has even garnered the attention of Sevenoaks MP Laura Trott, who visited the gathering to bestow
everything
support.
I can to fight with you, and I am so sorry that this is happening to you. So thank you.
But as Sevenoaks does not have a local plan in place until 2027, it has less control over when and where development takes place.
So we had a local plan and submitted a local plan previously, which unfortunately the government's planning inspector refused, which is why we're having to redo the local plan. But we would have had to have redone the local plan anyway, because the government has significantly increased the housing targets from 10,000 to 17,000.
For those protesting the development, they feel that these don't have the best interests of Swanley at heart.
There is a shortage of housing, but unfortunately the housing that's built is not affordable. When they talk about affordability, they talk about 80% of market rents, and I'm afraid that's not affordable.
We contacted Sevenoaks District Council for comment, and they explained the necessity to increase development under the government's updated National Planning Policy Framework. They also explained they will continue to protect the overwhelming majority of the Greenbelt and that affordable housing will be part of the new infrastructure. But as the consultation period draws to a close, will campaigners like Danielle be able to harvest the fruits of their labour? Megan Shaw for KMTV in Swanley.
Next, with the launch of the latest COVID inquiry report, residents in Kent have been reflecting on the scale of the pandemic, which brought the world to a standstill 5 years ago. More than 4,500 people died from coronavirus-related illnesses, and the latest rounds of the COVID inquiry have revealed several reports on the government's slow decision-making during this time. It's led to people in the county asking themselves whether the scale of loss could have been avoided. Our reporter Chloe Brewster headed to Swale, which had the highest infection rate in the county during the pandemic, to find out more.
COVID. It's a word that many of us would rather leave in the past. But the second official report from the COVID public inquiry was released this week, containing damning reflections on the 3 lockdowns that threw all of our lives into turmoil. It depicts a toxic and chaotic Downing Street, where decision-making was unclear, ill-informed and too late. Swale was one of the areas in Kent with the highest COVID infection rate. Residents in Sheerness on the Isle of Sheppey told me their experiences looking back at the pandemic.
My wife and me, we've been for the whole lockdown time at home without money even for food.
Fortunately for me, my parents were okay. They didn't catch it or anything like that. But yeah, I know it's a sad situation. But for me, it didn't really. It's hard to say it didn't affect me. Obviously, you see the news and that affects you. But work-wise, it didn't affect me.
They knew it was coming, but the vaccinations were too far away.
Well, I think it was an unknown, completely unknown from our generation anyway.
The inquiry criticised the toxic and chaotic culture inside Downing Street, calling the decision to go into lockdown too little, too late.
I mean, it really speaks how important it is to be very clear with the public that we don't sugarcoat things. We're not over-optimistic. It's not about giving people hope or not hope. It's about giving people really, really clear guidance. I mean, it's shocking that there could have been 23,000 people's lives saved. These were new experiences, but at the same time, it just points to the sorts of leadership that you need in these situations.
KMTV's resident health expert, Dr. Julian Spinks, weighed in.
There'd been no preparation for this. We hadn't had lockdowns before. Nobody knew what to do. And the effect was it impacted children because we closed schools, and people who are vulnerable who didn't have the ability to go out and get their 1 hour's exercise or needed to have food delivered by friends or all those sort of things, plus missing the companionship. If you're elderly and lonely and you're not allowed to meet with anybody, that has a big impact.
This month marks 5 years since we entered the second lockdown. And as society moves on from the strangest time in many of our lifetimes, the government now must look back and learn. Chloe Brewster for KMTV in Sheerness.
Now, a family in Holling is holding a moonlight walk in memory of their daughter who passed away from a rare brain tumour. Sophia Lee Brun-Healy was just 7 years old when she passed away at her home in March. The family set up Bluebell Circle CIC to raise money for a memorial down by the river Sophia used to play along and are encouraging the community to take part. Sophia's mum Alice joins us now. So Alice, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Can you first of all start off by telling us a bit more about yourself and your group?
Our group was unfortunately set up after my daughter passed away, as you said, in March. And it started as a group of mums and dads who really wanted to support myself and my husband, Rob, and wanted to do something for Sophia. And once kind of a few months had gone past, we decided that actually we wanted to do something for Sophia, but we also really wanted to do something for this fantastic community here in Horling. And our 2-phase project, putting up a throne chair by the river, firstly, with carved animals that Sophia absolutely adored and loved, and a tablet on the back with 9 pictures from Horling Primary School, a competition we're running there, student pictures. And our second phase is to regenerate the area, and that's going to happen in kind of 2027, 2028. So it's a 2-phase project. It's in memory of our fantastic, beautiful, brilliant daughter. And we're bringing the community together, which we think is actually really important and what we need right now around us and around each other.
Of course, and I'm sure it would be something that Sophia would be so pleased to see that you're doing. Can you tell me a bit about her?
Sophia was kooky, she was intelligent, she was special, and above all, she was brave. And that, being asked about what she was like, is probably the toughest question I can be asked, because she was amazing. And of course, we miss her terribly. And today would have been her 8th birthday. And wherever she is, we are thinking about her and have been all day.
And for those viewers at home as well, who may be impacted, maybe seeing this and thinking, what an incredible thing that you're doing, obviously, for her memory, how can they get involved?
They can get involved in different ways. They can go online to our Just Giving on the Bluebell Circle, so www.thebluebellcircle.org, and they can donate. If you just want to simply donate, that's fantastic. If you're a business and you want to support us in some way or other, reach out on our contact form or just come along to one of our events. Tomorrow night, we're walking for loved ones who are lost and remembered. And if you would like to come along, it's £6 an adult. Our children are free to come along to the community centre in Horling, walk with us together along the river and remember your loved ones.
And have you had have anybody got in contact with you about how this kind of fundraiser and how the work that you're doing has helped them?
Do you know what? Even today, we were putting the butterflies out along the riverside in Horling, and several people stopped to talk about their own grief, their stories of grief. And that helps us a lot as parents, but it also, we feel, has brought the community together. So we've had a lot of people reach out to support us because losing a child is really challenging, and we're really leaning in on that and hopeful that, that supports others as well as us.
Excellent. Well, I wish you the best of luck for that, and certainly let us know what it turns out like, and we can maybe follow up. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. We'll be back after this short break. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight Live on KMTV. Now, a bomb hoaxer who threatened to blow up Sittingbourne police station and shoot officers has been sentenced to 18 months in prison. Wade Grant got into a late night standoff with police in December after he went to Central Avenue and made several threats to staff over the phone, including claiming he was armed with a gun and a bomb. 7 officers had to be evacuated from the building as armed police, search dogs and a helicopter were deployed. The judge said Grant had an overwrought state of mind as he handed in the sentence during a hearing at Maidstone Crown Court. Next, the Home Office have confirmed that a disused prison in Goudhurst will not be used to house asylum seekers. Reports on social media claimed that the former Blantyre House open prison was about to be used to house 600 asylum seekers, despite the prison only having accommodation for 120 inmates when it was operative. Following inquiries from Kent Online, the Home Office have quashed the rumours. A spokesperson said they do not nor will not have plans to use the site for that reason. It closed in January 2016 for refurbishment work and will never be reopened. And next, a family from Faversham have stipulated their children out of school so they can travel the world. James Liberty car crew say the UK's stressful daily routine was limiting their children's progress, so they are now homeschooling them on the go. The families visited countries like Kenya, Malaysia and Mauritius, which they say has allowed their sons to learn through real-life experiences. James and Liberty spoke with us earlier today.
When we were in the UK, it just felt like we were just living to work. Now it feels like we are just living.
Our whole work-life balance and our whole family dynamic, it just completely changed for the better. And we thought actually showing the children the world was the best way to do that, because we felt like they weren't getting that experience from school. In traditional primary school in the UK, there's so much sitting.
Yeah.
Just naturally from the way that the system is, it's through no fault, it's nobody's fault, but it's just, that's the way it is. A lot of learning has to be evidenced in books and written, and actually we're trying to move away from that and not have to be writing everything all the time.
We're kind of combining our skills that we have to launch our own world schooling platform. It's something that's come up numerous times when we've been speaking to other families.
And of course now it's Jude Moulton with the latest sports.
First up in the world of cricket, and the long wait is finally over. The eagerly awaited Ashes series started in the early hours of the morning, with England laying down the gauntlet against Australia on day 1 in Perth. However, it wasn't such an auspicious start for opening batsman and Kent cricket's own Zach Crawley, whose campaign began with a duck after facing just 6 balls, and the tourists were only able to chalk up 172 runs in a little more than 30 overs. However, England's bowlers gave a masterclass with the ball and scuttled the Aussies to only 123 runs for 9 at close of play. Crawley will hope to perform better when England no doubt head out for their second inning at 2:20 tomorrow morning. It's into the football news now, and a return to fitness for club captain Armani Little has provided the Gills with a boost ahead of their League 2 fixture against Barnet on Saturday. The defensive midfielder has been sidelined for the last 2 matches and hasn't played a league game since early September. The gaffer Gareth Ainsworth has said Armani's definitely fit to play and that the side could do with him being the engine in the middle of the park. Who also could be back in the starting lineup is striker Seb Palmer-Holden. He's back from injury and being photographed in training. Also, Elliot Nevitt is back after missing the Crawley game with a 1-match ban after accumulating 5 yellow cards. And finally, it will be a duel in the desert as Maidstone's Sam Noakes takes on undefeated Abdullah Mason in the WBO light world title fight in Saudi Arabia this weekend. If Noakes wins in Riyadh, he will become Maidstone's first ever world boxing champion, and at only 28 years old, he has many more opportunities to add belts to his resume. In an interview, the former West Street amateur said he's ready and raring to go. The ring bell will go off at 8 in the evening on Saturday.
And as always, Fridays on KMTV are the home of the Kent Politics Show. This week, Rob Bailey was joined by Green Kent County Councillor Stuart Heaver and Romy Lamas of Reform UK. They discussed Labour's new plans to stop asylum seekers from travelling across the English Channel in small boats and arriving on Kent's coasts. But here's a clip from the show, but you can watch the full episode at kmtv.co.uk.
Welcome to the Kent Politics Show on KMTV. I'm Rob Bailey. And this week, Labour unveiled its new plan to stop the boats arriving on Kent's coast. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood wants to make the UK less attractive to illegal migrants. She'll deport people whose asylum claims fail. Those given leave to stay will have their status reviewed more regularly and will receive less financial support. But her plans, which could see children forced out of the country, have been described as performative cruelty by opponents. Here's the Home Secretary and Folkestone and Hyde MP Tony Vaughan this week.
And is reflected in the work of charities like Napier Friends in my constituency who support those staying at Napier Barracks. My question is about the appeal reforms in relation to professionally trained adjudicators. What is the rationale for this when we already have a specialist judiciary with expertise to decide these cases? And what is it about the adjudicator model that will mean they are in a better position to decide these cases than under the current system?
Here with me is Robbie Lamas, the Deputy Leader of Reform in Medway, and Stuart Heaver, who represents Whitstable, Canterbury City Council and Kent County Council. Thanks very much for joining me. Robbie, Labour's announced this policy. It's been condemned by an awful lot of people, but there must be elements of this policy that you approve of, surely?
I mean, if there ever was an award given to a politician for what they call the rhetoric gap, the difference between the presentation and the substance of the policy, I think Mahmood deserves the Academy Award. I really, really do. The problem with the proposals is actually an amnesty through the back door. What she's proposing as part of her package of measures and reforms is two things. One, a work and study route available to asylum seekers. So in a sense, that will reclassify those waiting for permission to stay and give them permission to work. So essentially, she's just going to say, doesn't matter about the processes we have, we're going to set up an alternative form of economic immigration and we just have them all in permanently. Reform would send asylum seekers who are fouled back home and anyone who crossed the channel illegally back home, no ifs, no buts. The second thing that she said was that, and I give her credit, that the problem is with the European Convention of Human Rights, the ECHR, which is controlled by a court in Europe, and only reform will leave the ECHR. And therein lies the problem for Labour. They won't be able to actually deliver any meaningful change and deport anyone because they'll still be blocked by the court.
And of course, you can watch that full episode on our website, kmtv.co.uk. But now, it's been very cold today, so let's take a look at the weather forecast. Now, it's looking rather cold tonight with an average temperature of 4 degrees with a clear night across Kent. Tomorrow morning, there will be mostly cloudy skies across the county with an average temperature of 6 degrees. And then tomorrow evening, we will have 7 across the board. Slight touch of rain across the county as well, wind speeds of 16 and 20 miles per hour. Sunday, we've got 10 degrees, rainy skies. Monday, partly cloudy skies, 8 degrees. And the same on Tuesday. So looks at starting next week, it'll be a little bit less rainy. Now, Christmas lights are well and truly underway here in Kent, and if you've been out in Rochester like I have been today, you'll see that for sure. Last night, Maidstone switched on their Christmas lights in what our colleagues over at KMFM called the best and biggest lights event in the county. But with other Christmas traditions, what are residents getting up to? Our reporter Neela Mohammed has more on this and joins me now. So, what are Kent's favourite Christmas traditions?
So we went out to Rochester High Street hoping to catch some shoppers mid-Christmas shopping. And Christmas traditions very much centre around the sense of family and community and kind of making sure everyone has the similar kind of experience over Christmas. Very much is a case of giving back to the community, but particularly giving back to the younger generation. We spoke to this one man who just became a new father again and said that for him traditions are null and void. He's not really interested in them, but he keeps them up for the sake of his younger children. But what I found really interesting and expected is that almost every single one of them said absolutely no Christmas music, no Christmas films, nothing like that before December.
But of course we've seen all these lovely pictures that are on the screen now, and we've got a picture in between us as well. This is what happened over in Maidstone, so clearly they don't agree with that. They think that the light should be switched on earlier. What effect can this have for the Maidstone community?
Well, as we can see, there's like over 1,000 people at this switch on event. But in terms of the impact that it has, it doesn't just celebrate the community, how great the community is, but it has a huge economic impact as well. I mean, it's a huge traction in terms of the increase in retail sales, but also footfall to high streets that might otherwise be empty. I mean, the CACI, who this information technology company, saw specifically with regards to food and beverage sales, that on event day, spend in this category increased by 29% compared to the same day the week before.
Excellent. And just quickly, can you tell us about what other festive events are happening around Kent?
So if you missed the one in Maidstone last night, and if you're a huge fan of Charles Dickens, you would know that he has a really strong connection to Kent. And every year you have the Rochester Dickensian Christmas Festival, which is full of Victorian era style Christmas markets, parades, costumes, entertainment. If that's not your sort of thing and you're a bit of a Scrooge about celebrating